in Austin?
Why aren't you here?
Yeah, why aren't you here? I'm gonna have you in the studio.
So Eric, I'm so glad you guys remember me. I remember being able to have a lot of time to go to the atheist experience and talk Heathen after service, but that's just weird. So, I've been out of town for a while and coming back now. It's really unfortunate that all the church activities that we're doing always take place either at the beginning of Talk Heathen or at the beginning of the atheist experience. So unfortunately, I was like, okay, well, at least I can call. I can call at least.
For sure. Well, what did you want to talk about?
Okay, well, so incidentally enough, in my Sunday school, we just started the problem of theodicy and the problem of evil.
Okay.
So, and one of the things we went over was basically objectivity and objective good and objective morals. And one of the questions that was challenged to ask about was how can an atheist call the actions of God evil? And if so, based on what standard?
Got it.
That's a good question.
Well, so can I ask you a question to kind of help ferret this out a little bit? I'm not changing the subject. I don't want you to think that I'm pushing off that question, but I think that this line will help answer it a bit. So you're asking how I have an objective for best, right? By what standard am I making this judgment that something is better or worse, that something's good or evil, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you're doing that because you're basing your objective on what?
Oh, I guess the objective would be on God being good.
Okay. How do you know that God is good?
How do we know that God is good? I guess. So all I would point to is that without God being the absolute standard of goodness, there just is no other standard of goodness that we can point to.
How do you know that that's a standard of goodness in the first place? You need to be able to demonstrate that that is a standard of goodness, because we can go in, and there's a reason that theodicies exist, is because people need to be able to consort themselves around the immoral nature of the deity that's described, especially in the Old Testament. But when you get into it, right, there's this assumption that God is good and this is what it is, and somebody else has to explain themselves. Well, I would contend that we're in the exact same position, you and I. The only difference is I'm not making an assertion that I can't back up.
Okay. So you don't claim God is evil?
So if we're going to talk about what we think is good and evil, I think that there are plenty of places in the Bible where the God character is a monster.
Right, but just maybe this is semantics, but I don't believe God is evil because I don't believe there is a God.
I think Voldemort's evil.
Okay.
True.
And so I think fictional characters can still have an intended kind of moral leaning.
Oh, for sure.
Especially like when I play D&D, man. My big bad is just nasty, But
true. Just making sure.
For sure.
We're all on the same page here.
I got your point.
Okay. Okay, then, yeah, you're right. It is better to be specific. If there's anything in the Bible that you would point to God doing as being evil, is there just, can you just list one, and then we can take it from there?
Yeah, the slaughtering of the Amalekites.
Slaughtering of the Amalekites. So why do you consider that to be evil?
So I base my moral decisions on human well-being. And so I think that we live in a society where generally that is generally what we're striving for. So first we need to agree on that objective. Doing that, I would say that slaughtering an entire group of people and committing genocide is not contributing to human well-being. It is not making sure that those people are happy or that those people are being taken care of. It's slaughtering them.
Well, okay, yeah. So, slaughtering a group of people, yeah, probably that. But so in the case of abortion, right? So in the case of abortion, the Christian also has that same idea, right, where a whole nation is just slaughtering a group of innocent individuals, and so are we just on the same end with that argument?
Oh, I like that. That's a nice little zinger. No, because I don't think that there's a soul. And I think that there's a difference between an actualized human and a potential human. That terminating a potential life is different from terminating an actual life. Right? It's the difference between cutting down a tree and squashing an acorn. Right? It's the difference between cutting down a tree or squashing an acorn. It's the difference between killing a chicken and cracking an egg. Those are different things. One has the potential to become the other, but that doesn't mean that they are necessarily the same. And because I don't believe that there's some inherent soul there, I absolutely draw those as very separate things. Now, if you want to talk about late-term abortion, then we can talk about a whole host of moral things, but I really don't care for that topic because it always gets messy, and
it's only about 3% of what happens anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a sticking point to get people pissed at each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, you're right, and I'm glad that you guys are answering the question. I appreciate that, guys. But okay, so if we could deem as America, like if we could, as the whole, that anyone that hasn't been born like through pregnancy is not considered alive, then like what does that stop Nazi Germany from having like the right to say, well, I don't believe that the Jews had souls. I don't believe that they're worthy of life, so we're just going to take care of them because we've deemed as a nation that they're not really worth keeping around. What is the difference in that case? Is it still the same thing that just a group of people have agreed that, yes, this is our definition of who gets to live and who doesn't?
So did you catch the part where I said potential human and actual human?
Okay, go on.
No, that was the whole thing. I drew a distinction between what is a potential human and an actual human. So that answers that.
So it hinges upon potential human and an actual human. Then I guess at what point do you consider a person to be an actual human as opposed to potential?
Yeah, and that's where I said it's really messy and icky. And if you want to talk about late-term abortions, that's a discussion that we can have after I've probably had more sleep. But it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Here's another part of this. Sorry, I'm going to jump in here because there is a false equivalency happening here. The reason that people have abortion is not we hate these fetuses and think that they are subhuman and need to die. The reason that people have abortions is not to kill anything at all. That's not the point. The point is that there is a thing that subsists by being sustained by someone's body. If I were to become pregnant, the fetus would be sustained by my body. And whether or not I have a choice in sustaining that other potential life is the whole point. So the reason that it's different is because with abortion, 90% of the time, if not more, the whole reason is I do not feel equipped, either physically, mentally, financially, to support a life against my wishes. With the Holocaust, this is a whole different issue because there was nothing, the Jews weren't suctioning the life out.
No.
Like there was no, it's a false equivalency. It's not about killing, it's about making a choice about whether or not your body should subsist to support another life or not.
Cheers to that. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
If you want to go more apples to apples, let's talk about something we can probably both agree on is horrible. The flood story, right? Drowning all but a handful of animals and a few people, and just wiping out all life on the planet. I would say that's pretty damn immoral, wouldn't you?
Well, on what basis are you calling it evil?
The same basis you and I are both discussing what evil is. You don't get to use that card here. Sorry, buddy. You got to justify it before you can try and claim that you're better than it.
Okay, but I mean, if I didn't come with this with any bias, if I was just to ask you, what do you think of this story? Mm-hmm. What do you think of this character destroying the entire world in the flood? And you said it was evil. I'd ask, okay, why do you think it's evil? I mean, I'm just genuinely want to know.
Sure.
Well, yeah.
I think widespread slaughter of lives is fucking evil. Again, The moral standard that I'm using is human well-being. And it is definitely not there when you're talking about the genocide of all but a handful of people and creatures. Now, it's funny, I don't think you would back this up if it was anybody but your God, because that is atrocious. I mean, that's like saying, okay, I'm going to hit the button, start World War III, nuke out the entire planet except for a couple people in a cave. But no, that wasn't immoral. How do you know that was immoral? Come on, Sain.
Well, I guess in that case, I mean, we could talk about, why God did that. And I think answering that question would probably yield, maybe the answer why I don't consider it immoral.
So you think why someone does something makes it moral or not?
Do you know the difference between intent and impact?
I mean, yes, because not every time killing isn't always, I guess in my words, a sin. There are times where capital punishment is necessary. Serial killers, I definitely do think that it's a case by case basis.
Do you think that the little animals, the bunnies and the deer, the babies, still, infants, those who'd never done anything evil simply because they didn't have enough lifespan to do so, are on equal footing to serial killers?
Yeah, I mean, the only reasons that killing is legally not protected, but not a crime, is if you either did it unintentionally or if you did it in self-defense. So did God unintentionally kill all of the bunnies, or was he doing it in self-defense?
Well, I don't know. Going back to the infants, again, it goes back to this idea of, how can you deem, one group of people worthy of life as opposed to not? You guys do the same thing in my eyes when it comes to abortion.
Hold on.
You're right. Maybe that is a different conversation. It might be old.
It is. You don't go to the store and see a carton of eggs and go, look, 12 chickens. Right? And the funny thing is, Sain, what I really want to pose to you is this. I gave you my justification. I told you why. I told you how we can use it. I put it into context and brought up something that I think is unequivocally, inarguably evil. And yet, you're trying to justify it by saying, well, no, there could be a reason. So I guess the question for me is, how do you rationalize that you have some kind of standard for good and evil when this is what you bring?
Okay, good. I'm sorry. So can you say the last part of the question really quick?
How can you rationalize that you've got the answer to good and evil when that can slip right through? What makes you think that I have to come and bring my reasons, which I can, that you have not yet done, and yet you're still somehow sitting on the moral high ground? I don't get it. That is a good point, I guess. So, like I told you, I think the intent behind God flooding the earth is what's important. So I don't know if you care about that. Well, so I'll tell you that my intent behind greeting every person that walks into the ACA is that I want them to feel welcome. That said,
yeah, and you have. I've always felt welcome every time I've been to the ACA. By the way.
Oh, awesome! I'm glad, and I hope you come back. That said, if I was being careless and the impact of my actions caused someone to feel uncomfortable and not want to come back here, then that is still something that happened, right? Just because I didn't intend them to doesn't mean that they didn't get that impression. This is a really softball example, but I'm trying to give you a true-to-life thing here, right? I would want to either reach out or do what it takes to make sure that was rectified, not justify, well, I wasn't making you, no, right? If I hurt somebody's feelings by accident, I'm still going to reach out and say, hey, I'm sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. But I definitely wouldn't go, nope, fucking deal with it. Here's a rainbow. Right?
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. So you asked me, why I was justified. So if we look in the key text of Genesis, it tells us that God flooded the earth because mankind's heart was full of violence, and there was nothing but wicked acts being done on the earth.
Okay. So that's a claim. Can you justify it?
Yeah. Well, Well, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did ask for the reason. So if I can justify it,
sure.
Well, it was God bringing justice. It was God putting an end to evil on the earth, and unfortunately, that means that judgment means the death of mankind. That, biblically speaking, that's what it's always been down to. When mankind sins, our wages of sin is death. We rightfully bring death upon ourselves for that.
I think that your standard for morality is horrendous. You should probably look at updating that. I mean, and the other one is, dude, okay, why did God kill all of them? Well, they were all evil. Really? The dogs were evil? The squirrels were evil? How did you know? Can we have any example of where every living thing is evil? I mean, is that even possible? Because to the best of my knowledge, even when you bring up horrendous, atrocious acts, right? When you talk about the Nazis, do you think that they thought that they were evil? No. They thought they were doing the right thing. They were misinformed and fucked up, and it had an impact of doing something horrible, even though their intent they thought was not that.
Right? If we're talking about intent.
Yeah.
Only the most cartoon villains actually do evil because they want to do evil. Everyone thinks that they're justified in what they do.
We don't have Snidely Whiplash, and Boris and Natasha, twirling their mustaches and tying people up and throwing them up on train tracks. It's just not a thing, dude.
Okay, so is it not fair for me to bring up the question again? Like, on what basis you're calling this flood evil?
Sure, yeah, human well-being.
Is it fair or is it not? I don't know. I'm just asking.
No, that's okay. The agreement of human well-being, and I think that standard is one that we both agree works. Now, can you give me a standard that works? Because so far you have not done so.
I don't know, man. What I do know is that if the standard is well-being of a human being and a whole nation agreed that it was well for the entire nation, then what does stop Nazi Germany from killing everyone? I don't see how is that any different? A group of people just said, we want the well-being for our people. Let's get together as a nation and let's eradicate what we feel is a threat to the well-being of our nation. I just don't see what authority you're appealing to.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a little slow with this.
No. That's okay. Let me give you an applicable example here. There's this entire saying that I have the right to swing my fists around all the way up until it reaches the tip of your nose, right? Or you have the right to swing your fists all the way up until it reaches the tip of my nose. You do not get to push that on me. It's the same reason why I'm absolutely against, and why I know you are, and the rest of us here at the ACA are against the infringing of the state and the government processes by religious attitudes, by bringing in these biblical quotes and texts and things like that. No, we are a Christian police force. We swear there's no bias. I mean, dude, you have the right to say and do what you want to do. That's fine. But if it's going to impact on my well-being, guess what? No.
Well, okay, but specifically addressing the idea that a group of people did get together and decided this is right and this is wrong. I don't see how that answers the question. There's still the idea that a group of people did claim that this is right for the whole nation.
Right. Are there judgments on right and wrong without humans?
Judgment on right. I don't know. What do you think?
No, because we're the ones defining it. If we're not there to think it, it's not there. Morality and ethics are something that we created. And you can see the evolution of morality and ethics, going back to the Bronze Age by opening up that book you're talking about.
Okay. So from what I just heard, morality is only real as long as people are around. Evil and good is only real as long as people are around.
Mm-hmm. Do you blame a lion for killing a gazelle on the savannah? Do you say, "Oh man, that was really evil"?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't call that evil.
Yeah, which is why I would say human well-being is kind of where it's at.
Okay, but if objective morality just stops with us, like I don't see how there's anything objective then, right? Like in that case, there's no such thing as actual evil, right?
No, not true. That's a straw man. Let's try again. If we're agreeing, then we can make an objective.
Okay, so as long as a group of people agree on it, then it's objective.
Yeah.
So Nazi Germany, right? I mean, that's exactly what happened. A group of people.
Man.
And a larger group of people decided that was wrong. And then...
What if the Nazis had won, they slaughtered every last Jewish person on the planet, and they said, no, they were all evil. We had the right to kill them. Then, hey, those Nazis are just as bad as your God.
Well, yeah, but again, we're still going on to this idea that a group of people still agree on it.
In this example, your God is the Nazi.
No, what I'm saying is that okay. I'm sorry. What's your co-host name? I'm so sorry. I should have asked from the beginning.
V.
C? Is that what you said?
V, like the letter V.
Oh, V for vendetta.
So V. Okay. Well, yeah, like you said, a larger group of people said that was wrong. But again, so is it just going on to numbers? Just the greater amount of people that exist? Like if everyone in the world just agreed that it was okay, then it doesn't make it okay.
No, that's right.
No matter how large of a group you had.
Sure.
Right.
So
otherwise, atheists would.
Yeah.
Have it wrong.
Well, let's talk about slavery in the United States. There was a time when people thought that was the right and proper thing to do, is to own other humans as property. Now, would you be able to convince them at the time? Maybe, but probably not. The fact is we have grown as a society, and we can look back at history and go, holy shit, that was profoundly immoral. That's why I honestly think that morality 200 years from now is going to be that much more, and people are going to look at us and go, holy crap, can you believe that they put each other at risk by hopping into cars and then driving them manually, with some people sleep deprived and drunk, right? Putting each other at this horrible danger. Like, we've solved that problem. We don't have to do that anymore, and we can see that behavior as something that is truly atrocious and not conducive to human well-being. Right? I'm hoping that examples like that are going to happen in the future, because we're going to continue to grow in our moral and ethical understanding.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you put it in that way, because, obviously in my Christian worldview, and not every Christian even agrees that Jesus will come back to earth, but in my worldview, Jesus will come back to earth. He'll establish his kingdom, and he'll set up his righteousness on the earth. And in that case, we're probably looking back as of now and say, wow, isn't it horrible that we just slaughtered millions of unborn babies?
Can I ask a question? Is this righteous kingdom before or after God tramples all of his enemies in a wine press and the blood soaks all of his garments?
That's
and the eyeball monsters. Don't forget the eyeball monsters.
No, and you're right. And in that case, we could probably talk. Definitely, I'd love to be able to. I love you guys. The fact that you guys willingly take on theists, but I do think the problem maybe of hell is definitely something that, technically speaking, it's more horrendous than anything in the Bible ever teaches. I do think that's a very hard thing to go with. And I think that even tops the whole wine press.
Eternal torture. Yeah. I mean,
I'm just curious how he knows this if the Bible doesn't even teach it.
But I'm actually happy that he agrees that that's a truly immoral thing. I think we're gonna cut this call on agreeing, but dude, you need to get back here, man. I miss sitting down and having these conversations. And for those of you, And for those of you who want to see that conversation and have those conversations, the address. We publish it, 1507 West Koenig Lane, Austin, Texas. Come and see us, Sain. I'm glad to hear from you. I'm glad you're doing well, bud.
Love you guys, man.
Love you too.
Hopefully we'll run into each other soon.
I hope so.
Sounds good.
Take care.